Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today we are back, and I know my turnaround for Mission Impossible to Mission Impossible 2 was not fast, but we are back talking about Mission Impossible 3. I'm bringing it up on IMDb right now. Sorry, I've been house sitting for my friends, so I've been back and forth, so I'm trying to fit everything in, guys. But I forgot how much, like, I'd always said this was, like, one of my favorite ones, but I'll also always say, you know, like I said, the last two things, if any of these are your favorite, maybe besides 2, there's a reasonable argument to be made for this, for any of them to be your favorite. And you know what, if 2 is your favorite, I'm not gonna yuck your yum, it's totally fine. But man, did I forget just how much I really love this movie. Now, this one follows Ethan Hunt, and it turns out that he is engaged to be married to Michelle Monaghan. Sorry, I'm pulling up my notes right now, guys. Also, like, I'll talk a little bit about, I'm kind of gonna, it's hard to, like, jump around and everything, and, like, yeah, we're gonna talk spoilers, of course. But this is possibly, it's hard to say this is my favorite opening, because there's so many good ones. Like, this is better than the first and the second for sure. Like, the first one's not great. It's kind of the weakest part of the movie. Second one's definitely not great. This one's amazing. What's the fourth one? The fourth one is the prison riot, which is pretty good. The fifth one is what? What's the fifth one? Is that the plane taking off? I think that's the plane taking off. And then the sixth one is like the Wolf Blitzer fake out, which is also good as well. So, like, pick your poison, honestly. But this one I think is my favorite because this just drops you straight into a moment that we have never seen Ethan Hunt in, and that's him not being in control. Philip Seymour Hoffman is like, yeah, put an explosive device in your head, and, you know, I'm going to shoot your wife in the head at 10 unless you tell me where the rabbit's foot is. You don't know what's going on. You don't know who Michelle Monaghan is. You don't know who Philip Seymour Hoffman is. You don't know how Ethan got beat, or the explosive device, or the rabbit's foot, or whatever. You don't know anything that's going on. And then as he's counting down, and Philip Seymour Hoffman is just ruthless, just absolutely ruthless about it, just counting down. And he's like, I'm gonna kill you. And like he goes through like the 5 stages of grief through everything, like bargaining, anger, all, like, I don't know the 5 stages of grief. I don't know why I said that. I'm just pulling that out of my butt. But he tries every single tactic that has worked for him in the past, and none of it works. And you hear a gunshot go off, and then the fuse lights. You're like, oh my god, that's so intense. It's so intense, and I love it. So I'm okay with saying this is my favorite cold open of the Mission Impossible franchise for sure. It's just so good. But I'm going to start there, and that's, like, the movie itself is good, but obviously, like, the fact that they were able to get Philip Seymour Hoffman as the villain is insane. He is so good in this movie, just with everything he does, and the fault of this movie is that he's not in it as much as he should be. And I'm sure, like, you know, he got paid a good amount of money to only be there for, like, you know, a few weeks or something. But every single second that he is on screen is so good. Like, the interrogation scene between him and Ethan, like, on the airplane is amazing. That opening scene is, like, just sets the tone so well for the movie. Everything is so good, and I just wish he was in the movie more, honestly. That's the only problem, is that I, like, if you give me, like, 10 more minutes of screen time with him, and I'll get to that where, like, his ending, and, you know, I guess I can talk about it now. It's like, we don't have to go chronologically, but just, like, his death isn't satisfying, but I don't know what kind of death would be satisfying for such a good villain. Like, you know, not everyone can be Hans Gruber, where, you know, getting thrown off a building in slow-mo is, like, perfect. But I don't know how killing Owen Davian would be, like, satisfying, because he's such a good villain. You know, he gets captured, and then he's like, oh, like, he just immediately wakes up and he's just like, who are you? Do you have any, like, a wife? Because I'm going to make her bleed, and then I'm going to kill her in front of you while she screams your name. And just, like, this guy is, like, zip tied to a chair, doesn't know where he is or who's got him, and just doesn't care. And then, you know, he escapes in an awesome bridge scene, and we'll get to that. And then as soon as Ethan answers the phone, he's like, "You held me out of a thing. You held me out of an airplane. You have 48 hours to get the rabbits of it. Bye." And just doesn't miss a beat at all. It's so good. I love it so much. But going back to just kind of chronologically, Michelle Monaghan, I feel like, does not get enough credit for this movie. And, it's tough being overshadowed by, Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tom Cruise, and even, the supporting cast of like Kerry Russell and Maggie Q and Jonathan Rhys-Davies and Ving Rhames. Like, and Simon Pegg is up there, and Aaron Paul's in this movie. He doesn't even get any credits, but he doesn't get any pre-screen credits, but he's in there, pre-Breaking Bad Aaron Paul. But just like everyone just plays their part so well, and I really do love Michelle Monaghan, and I love that they, obviously Ethan is keeping all of his IMF stuff a secret, but they don't play her stupid. Like he's like, "Oh, I got to go rescue Kerry Russell," but he tells her like, "I got a business conference in Houston," and then he comes back, and we'll talk about that in a second. Kerry Russell, that whole part, and everything went wrong, and she can tell. It's not like a True Lies situation where she's like, "Oh yeah." But like, she can tell something is wrong, and then when he leaves to go get Philip Seymour Hoffman, she's like, "Something's happening. Like, what aren't you telling me?" And he's like, "You just have to trust me." And it's a good moment where she's like, "Is this real? Are we real?" And he's like, and then they get married right then and there. I'm like, I like that. So where she's not dumb, she needs answers, and he's gonna give it to her, after he gets back from this mission. But he decides to like put a stamp on like, yes, our love is real, our marriage is real, and stuff like that. So I like that they don't play her stupid or like clueless. Like, she knows something is wrong. And then in the finale, because you have to play it like that, because when he's got the explosive device, he kills Philip Seymour Hoffman, but then like he's like, "All right, you have to cardiac arrest me," EMT, whatever those things are called. Defibrillator, you got to defibrillate me and I'm going to pass out. And so I like that part, where like it makes it believable, where she's able to like take down two bad guys and, and rescue and kind of save the day, and then, defibrillate him. I like that a lot. Where was I? Okay, let's get to Kerry Russell, because I thought that was this, like, in the same way that, Mission Impossible 1, kills off Emilio Estevez, and it's pretty shocking because, he's kind of like the second or third biggest name in the movie, and you're like, "Oh yeah, okay, Emilio Estevez," and then he's dead. That's kind of like Kerry Russell in this. Like, she might not be the second or third big name, but she had just done Felicity. She's on the come up, and obviously, like, we hadn't really seen, like, we've seen IMF agents die, but not like you think Tom Cruise is gonna rescue her. And then just like their chemistry as like student pupil, where like Tom Cruise kind of trained her, and now she's out in the field, and like he rescues her and everything's going great, and like the helicopter chase is awesome. And then that he's like, "Oh, you got an explosive device in your head," and just the way it gets detonated, just like that, just that sound. It's not like, some Quentin Tarantino, like, B-movie, big explosive head moment or something. But it's so well done, and it's so cold and just, like, unforgiving. I really, really liked it, and I thought they played that really well. And it's a tough moment, man. It's a brutal death. And then even you see her, like, her corpse, like, on the the coroner's table. And that's when Lawrence Fishburne come in. And I love Lawrence Fishburne. I love Alec Baldwin in the next few movies, but I do wish he was still like the head of the IMF, whatever title they're going to give him. I love that he's like, "Oh, well, now I have to go tell her family that she died with a head-on collision on I-95. And I'm just like, God, dude, it's just such a perfect knife twist of like her family can't even know like the real cause of death, and like that she was doing this mission to like better the world and like, help stop a terrorist or something. But yeah, all good things about this movie, and just like it does a good job of balancing like just straight up hardcore action to where, and then, like really emotional, like hard moments that you just don't see coming. And I really like that. I like that a lot. Sorry, I'm watching something right now. I got distracted with it. What do you got? Helicopter chase, brutal death. Lawrence Fishburne as the head of the IMF. I like, and this leads to like Billy Crudup as well. I like both of them. I think both of them are perfectly used in this movie. I'm a big Billy Crudup fan. I really like him a lot, and I think he's perfect in this movie. Of where, like, he's on Ethan's side. He's his contact. He's trying to defend him in the Lawrence Fishburne meeting. All this stuff, and then his betrayal, his reveal. I don't know. Maybe I'm stupid when I watched this movie. I did not see it coming at all. I thought they framed Lawrence Fishburne perfectly. I thought it really worked. And when Billy Crudup came around the corner, working with Philip Seymour Hoffman, I loved it. I thought it worked so well. And I wish they like Billy Crudup, and I like him in Watchmen as Dr. Manhattan as well. Like, he's got that cold, like, kind of monotone thing, like, down to a T. And I like it a lot. The interrogation scene is perfect. The lip reading. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because when they're at the party at the very beginning, like, Tom Cruise can, like, read lips from across the room, and he's like, oh, yeah, it was that Lake Minnetonka, that we met, or something like that. And then when he gets captured, when he gets framed by the IMF and stuff like that, and then Billy Crudup is like, oh, how could you do this? And then, he like reads his lips. That's so cool. That is such a cool, like, IMF spy thing that they never use again. And I really, really liked it. In the same way that, like, the mask thing from Mission Impossible 2, they don't overuse it. They use it one time in the first 5 minutes of the movie. First 5 minutes, where it's just like, okay, he can lip read. That's weird. That probably will come back. And then it does, and it only used it once. Like, they're not constantly, like, mouthing to each other or something like that. I thought that was so perfectly used in such a great way, and I loved it. The big heist in this movie, it might be the weakest part, to where, like, breaking in. Hey, what are you doing? Do you guys see what I deal with? Do you guys see what I deal with? This cat who just, like, is so cozy, but just wants to get cozier. She just wants to get cozier. She's a big babies. But the heist into the Vatican, I liked, like, it's half and half. Getting into the Vatican is kind of meh. Like, they recreate, the tension scene, the cable scene, and that's not amazing. But then once he's in the Vatican, and they go up to Philip Seymour Hoffman, them creating the mask, him, and the scene where, like, Ving Rhames, like, putting the mask on, and the camera's, like, rotating back and forth, and it just becomes Philip Seymour Hoffman. Awesome. Amazing editing, amazing shot. Love it. Like, S tier Mission Impossible stuff. And then the whole scene, like, with, like, voice downloading, getting the mask, don't have enough time. Great tension, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers is sweaty. Jonathan Rhys-Meyers and Maggie Q are two people that I wish were in more stuff. Everything I've seen them in, I've really enjoyed, and I don't know why they're not in more stuff. Hollywood is gonna Hollywood, but everything that I've seen them in, I've really enjoyed them in, and I wish they were in more. But it's a great crew, love them. And then the other heist scene, the Shanghai one, I like the subversion where you don't see, like, you see him land on the roof. The stunt jump, like, I saw, like, a Twitter thread about this where, like, the jump isn't great, and I think it's not the point, but it's so crazy where we've come into the Mission Impossible, like, this is what you're here for type of thing. That was just another, like, set piece, and that wasn't what you're there for. But, now it would be like, that jump would be the advertising campaign, and you like look forward to it. But they just kind of waste it. But I do like how you don't see everything that's happening inside the building. They're just waiting for him, and then he breaks out of the window, and then you're going. And I like that. Again, the Owen Davian death isn't great, but, I still enjoy everything else he does. But, like, when he starts fighting Ethan or kicking him or something like that, I'm like, this is not what this villain would do. Like, it's just not. And it just, like, his death is kind of, like, unsatisfying, but it's okay. I'll forgive the movie for that. I still think, I don't know if this is my favorite, because, we're going to watch the next three and the new one, and I'm sure they just get better and better. But, man, Philip Seymour Hoffman puts this movie on its back, and it's hard, especially, like, because I know in Ghost Protocol, the villain is basically nameless and faceless. Like, you see him, but there's really no interaction or face to face with him. It's mainly about the stunts and about the Burj Khalifa and the Moscow break-in and stuff. And that's great, but I do love a good villain, and Philip Seymour Hoffman is easily the #1 villain of the Mission Impossible franchise. And even like the new guy Lane is clearly modeled after him. Absolutely modeled after him. But thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for being my patrons. Ghost Protocol is next, and I will see you then. Bye-bye.